How y'all doing today? Hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I'm really happy to be with you this morning. Good morning. Life Robbers, Day 2, Failure. I hate to fail. It's like I literally feel sick to my stomach when I find out that I have failed at something. And it used to create such stress for me. And today on the Freedom Forum, I want to talk about what we can do about getting rid of the life robber failure. Because here in the Freedom Forum, it's a place where I share strategies for mom to be able to become the best version of themselves so that they can help their students, whether struggling academically or not, to be successful and win in life. So let's talk about failure. Failure was like the worst thing that could possibly happen. And when someone brought it up, it was like, da 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 da, oh man, and then it would be just days and days of just feeling bad and feeling down and, oh, how could I have done that? Or why did they think that? It just was like, it just did not go with my world. Failure was, I had no place to put it. It had no intrinsic, no positive value. Good morning. It was just bad. Until I learned that failure is always teaching a lesson. I think the other thing that really was a bad thing for me with failure was that it was about other people. And what were they thinking? And how did they feel about me? Because I had failed. And so today I really want to encourage you to retake a look at failure in your life because it has purpose. And once I learned that, I'm not going to lie, I will tell you that there are still times when it comes up, something I missed, something I didn't do, and that spirit of condemnation and just beat down will try to come over me, and I have to rebuke it. I have to say, nope, that's not true. That's not the purpose of this. So let me relook at it. So I have a couple of educational programs. And invariably, I will have parents who will come and say, I noticed this, or, this is not right, or I have a concern about this over here, or this teacher needs to do better with this. And at first, it was just discombobulating that, they're coming to me, they're asking me questions, and they're saying that this is not working. And then when I began to understand that when a person comes to me, I would dread these parents coming, by the way, and some certain parents, because they had gifts in detail and they could see things, they would always be the ones who would come and say, this is wrong, or this needs to be fixed. And I dreaded seeing them coming. I just, it was like, it was get back in my mind, until I learned that God had literally placed those kind of people in my life, because if I heard what they were saying, and sometimes, it might not have been what I needed to do, but most of the time it was. If I could hear what they were saying and take a look at what they were pointing at, I could actually get better. My programs could get better. And so instead of being afraid of those people, even the ones who you might say were, what's the word I can use? Who, complained a lot. Even those people, I learned how to get beyond the complaint to see what was the real issue. And I learned to be thankful for them coming, because they were the one person in a group of maybe 90 that would tell me the truth. They would be the one person who would say, well, what about? Everybody else would be talking about it to their friends, but for whatever reason, be afraid to come and talk to me about it. But those parents that would be bold enough to just say, well, what about this? And I think you should do this. And when I began to realize they're not calling out failure, they're calling me up to better. I was able to take what in my mind was failure and actually turn it to my benefit. And I noticed that the more that I was open to what they had to say, the less I was get back, and able to receive and be open and consider what they were saying. I was able to take that thing that was a failure and turn it into a blessing. Some of you guys know that I have shared before that when I was a young mother, I was abusive. And I share it because I want other people to know that you can get help with those things. And everybody's going to get through that in a different way. But for me, God really helped me to understand that the children he gave me were his children and that I was not to treat them any old kind of way. Guys, I failed. I failed big time in the way that I treated my children initially. But at first, I was too proud to acknowledge it. When I finally realized that God was not trying to point out my failures to condemn me, but to help me to get better, I was able to get the courage, and for me it took courage, to actually go to my child and say, would you please forgive me? What mommy did was wrong. You know, in the past it would be, if you didn't do this and you made me, and finally God began to show me, nobody makes you do anything, Anita. It's a choice. And so just acknowledge that you failed. And you failed miserably. Just acknowledge it. And then talk about what you're going to do. And so when I really was able to acknowledge to my children about the fact that I was not doing what God called me to do, that I was not being kind, and that I was going to change that, I was able to tell them, and this is what I'm going to do. Number one, certain levels, this abusive talking, this, putting my hands in a way that's angry, I'm not doing that anymore. What I am going to do is speak with you in a way that is honoring and respectful to who you are and who God has made you to be. I'm going to remember that you're his child, that he just loaned to me for a little while. And all I can do is just ask you to please forgive me. And invariably, children are just so forgiving. The forgiveness was there. And I was able to take that failure and turn it around for my children's sake. And now I can take it and I can tell other moms who may be struggling with anger or control because of fear, that are failing, that it's okay. It's okay. All you got to do is acknowledge the failure and let's do something about it. Because failure is all around. So I failed in my family with my children. I failed in a business opportunity that I created this amazing educational program, and it was up and running, making lots of money. And then something happened, and the people in charge decided that they didn't want it anymore. I was devastated. It displaced, children who were getting help with, who needed smaller environment, more hands-on. I did not understand why God allowed me to fail. I cried about that for a long time. Until one day, he told me that he wanted me to start my own educational program. And as I began to do the research, I realized that if the program under the umbrella of the other organization had succeeded, it would have belonged to them. But because they shut it down, it belonged to me. And I was able to actually create my own educational program without any issues because they didn't want it. And now I'm in a position where that educational program is growing and it's doing better and it's actually partnering with some organizations. And wow. So it happened in 2010 when it got shut down. And let's see, about 2014, 2015 is when I had the opportunity to start again. So it took about 5 years for me to find out what that failure was really about, and to find out that it wasn't a fail at all, that it was a blessing. So sometimes it takes time to really see what's going on with the failure. But once I begin to understand that God is never trying to hurt me, He does not punish me, that there's always purpose in the things that He does, I began to look at trouble and problems and failure in a different way. I began to understand that I could look beyond the event, and I could say to the Father, okay, what is it you want me to do? What are you saying to me? And there's a saying that I always have: never say, why this? Why now? Why here? Because those are invalid questions that make you an invalid. Rather ask God, what are you saying to me? And what do you want me to do? So believe it or not, as painful as it is, failure has purpose in your life. And as you begin to reorient your mind to the possibilities of, okay, this didn't work, so what else can I do? When you begin to open your heart up to people that are coming to you who are saying that you failed in an area or you need to get better in an area, instead of holding your heart because you're trying to protect yourself, being willing to open up and say, okay, God, is what they're saying valid? Because some people are coming in, their motives may not be good. And so I couldn't just take in everything everybody said that I was failing at. I had to actually analyze it. I had to be discerning. I had to ask God, okay, is there any truth in what they're saying? And if there is, show me what it is and show me what to do about it. So today, I want to remind you that failure is a life robber. It takes the joy and the peace out of your life. And it puts you in worry mode. It puts you in self-defeat mode. It puts you in low self-esteem mode. It puts you in other people's opinions being more important than your own mode. Good morning. And so you have to learn that God has purpose in failure. Just learn the lesson. That's all. Don't spend a whole lot of time on it, and never spend time looking at other people, because you can't do anything about them. You can't change them. The only person you can change is you. So when those events come into your life, those failures come in, and there's other people that are connected to them, just be aware of that. But you can't do anything about them. So you need to ask the questions, God, what do you want me to do? What are you saying? Because those are victory questions that can take failure and flip it and make it a win for you in your life. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. I am Anita Gibson. I'm a coach, speaker, educational strategist, and author. And I am on my way to begin my day. And I hope you will too. Let's let failure go. Love you guys.